Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you're wondering about my unusual surrounding, actually I'm trying to film a reading vlog. And at this moment we're actually in the airport, in a lounge, and just waiting for our flight to Chile. Uh, it is about 14 hours, so our journey has just begun, but I'm already exhausted, at least that's how I feel. But during this reading vlog, I'm thinking of reading two short books. These are two first books from Sherlock Holmes series. I know it's shameful, but I actually have never read Sherlock Holmes before, and I'm very, very excited. So this time I'm planning to read The Study in Scarlet and The Sign of Fall. I already started reading Study in Scarlet, and I think I'm about 2 chapters in. So I've just started on the way to the airport, and I really, really enjoy it. So in the first chapter, it is actually named, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. We meet Sherlock Holmes. We see the beginning of a relationship between Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, how they met each other and how they started living together. And I found it very interesting because the way they met, because Sherlock Holmes was looking for a companion to rent a flat in London. Well, I live in London, and it is so familiar because the prices are so extortionate. Sometimes I feel that nothing really changes much throughout the history, and people are still struggling to rent something in London just because it's so prohibitively expensive. So he was looking for a companion to share the cost of renting accommodation in London. And that's how they met and they started living together. And we met both of them and we start our first adventure. I really, really enjoy it so far. To be honest, I was expecting to enjoy it. And yes, I'm not really disappointed. But anyway, I will go ahead with my reading and I will try to show you a little bit around me, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. I will give an update soon. As you can see, the food is quite nice for the lounge. I got some fish and some veggies. I'm actually pescatarian. Both of me and my partner are pescatarian, so we don't really eat meat. And sometimes it can be a bit complicated to get some food in these places. But here it's actually very, very nice. And by the way, yes, studying Scarlet and my Switch as well. So I'm planning to have some fun during my holiday. Hey, I'm back. So a quick update from the airplane. We're actually now flying. If the image is shaking, it's a little bit of turbulence at the moment. But yes, I just had dinner and I'm very, very stuffed. At the same time, I finished the first part of the book. So as you can see, I made a progress. So I'm halfway through the book and I really enjoy it. At the same time, it's quite a peculiar book. I've never really read Sherlock Holmes before. As already mentioned, I read one book by Agatha Christie, and I read her short stories in my last read, and I actually really enjoyed it. And I see right away the difference between these two books, just because in Agatha Christie style, you sort of trying to resolve the murder as well. So you have a chance to solve it with the main character, with the main detective in the story. But here in Sherlock Holmes, it is sort of, you're just there for the ride. You're like Dr. Watson. You are just an observer and you see Sherlock Holmes dealing with this mysteries and how he's trying to solve it. But the puzzle is just being put together in his head. And you don't really have much of an inside, and you don't really have any pretty much clues to the murder investigation. So you're just there for the ride, and this is the main differences for me. But on the other hand, I find the writing very interesting, very beautiful, and it's a very fast-paced and crisp story. So if you like fast-paced detective stories, I think it's an amazing example of it. I actually really enjoy it, as I already mentioned. And I think in my previous update, in my first update of this video, I told you that at that point I just finished the first chapter. So now I'm halfway through the book And apparently, this is the end of murder investigation. So Sherlock Holmes already managed to solve the murder mystery. I'm not sure about the second part of the book, so I will see. But the solving part was very fast. I was very surprised. And as already mentioned, everything just happens inside his head. And I think in the second part, probably will be some sort of explanation how he came to the conclusion. But anyway, after the first chapter, we got an insight in his deductive method. So in the second chapter of this book, he's explaining his deductive method to Dr. Watson. And we learn how his brain operates. And shortly after that, they received some news of a new murder that happened in London. It's a very mysterious case and it's quite horrific at the same time because the body was found in an abandoned house and the person is dead, but there is no wound, or at least there is no trace of a wound, but there is blood and there is some writing with blood on the wall. And Sherlock Holmes is invited as a consultant detective in order to help police forces to investigate and solve the murder. I found it quite peculiar the fact that the police forces are portrayed as, I would say, incompetent fools. And it seems like only Sherlock Holmes can actually solve any sort of mystery. I'm personally not really sure that I'm totally on board with it, but at the same time, it really works for the story because it just emphasizes the genius of Sherlock Holmes. And another interesting thing that I found in this book is an article in a newspaper after the murder, when they were writing about the murder. And sometimes I do feel that people don't really change much throughout the history. I mentioned before that this sort of London flat hunting really reminded me of pretty much contemporary struggles of people trying to find an accommodation in London, how expensive it is. And as already mentioned, it feels like nothing really has changed. And in this case, it came in this sort of the same deja vu, because in this article and the story, foreigners, migrants are blamed for the murder. I found it quite an interesting parallel with our reality. Because sometimes we do see this sort of news when people start blaming immigrants for crime happening in the country. But anyway, that's just my musings. I think now I'm thinking to try to actually go to sleep because everything is dark already and people are sleeping and I'm exhausted. I think our flight is about 13 hours, so there is lots of time to actually spend on the flight. I'm not sure I have energy to read now anymore. I think I'll just try to go to sleep and I'll give you another update upon my arrival to Chile. Hey, I know there was a bit of a break, but we arrived before yesterday. And yesterday I was just recovering and pretty much sleeping, so I didn't really film anything. I wasn't really doing anything, to be honest. But today we're on a tour in mountains around Santiago. I think this place is Yeso. I'm not sure if I pronounced it correctly, but it's so beautiful. I just wanted to show you a little bit around. Look at that. I'll just turn the camera and I'll try to show you a little bit more. There is a dam controlled by a Spanish company, and I think this water goes to Santiago, if I'm not mistaken. Well, look at these mountains, it's so beautiful. The interesting story, actually, we booked this tour in advance, but yesterday evening, just before this tour, we were told that this area is closed for security reasons. And when we checked it with other companies, actually none of them had the same sort of warning and nothing was available online. So we pretty much cancelled the tour with that company and rebooked it with another one. And yes, here we are. I'm not sure what actually happened. It was maybe just a tourist trap because that company said, okay, this area is cancelled, but we can actually take you on another tour. And we weren't really happy about it. So I'm not sure really what happened, but yes, we actually doing it with a different company and it's very beautiful. I think we have found the best view here. So I just wanted to show you this beauty. Look at that. Just so nice. Everyone is taking photos here. I finally finished studying Scarlet, and as I predicted, the second part of the book actually sheds more light on the mystery, and it gives us more background on the mystery and what actually happened. And we learn more about the perpetrator of the crime and what actually pushed him to commit such terrible acts. In my opinion, to be honest, I think the second part of the book was absolutely essential. For me, it actually was my favorite part of the book. I think it really enriched the story, but at the same time, it was quite an interesting experience, to be honest, because in the second part of the book, the author, Conan Doyle, expresses quite an interesting view and probably maybe personal opinion about Mormonism. After finishing this book, I actually did a bit of a research, obviously not a very deep one, but I was trying to actually read a little bit more about this opinion of Mormon religion and how it actually was formed and if it's actually true. And I found out that Conan Doyle's depiction of Mormonism actually largely reflected British view of this religion at the time. At the time, Mormonism was seen as a weird and probably dangerous sect. And there are lots of rumors circulating around this religion. So Conan Doyle's depiction, his sensationalized depiction of this religion in the book, was pretty much a reflection of a view in the society at the time. And it looks like his depiction of this religion in the story was just a reflection of these views, and just because it just simply sold well. So it definitely shouldn't be seen as something historical. It's definitely not a true historical account of what actually happened. And it's definitely a very distorted view of the religion. At the same time, I feel I can't really form a very educated opinion on the subject just because I don't really know much about the religion of Mormonism. In order for me to form this more educated opinion, I'll probably just need to do more research and read something deeper about this religion, but I'm not sure I'm really interested in this subject at this point in my life. So I just try to do some of my research, but if you know more about the subject, I would be actually glad if you can comment under this video and let me know if I'm mistaken. But anyway, regardless of this view of the religion, I actually really enjoyed the second part of the book. And as I already mentioned, I think it is absolutely essential to the success of the story. I absolutely loved it. As a result, I would say that I really actually enjoyed the story, even though there are a few things that maybe I'm not really totally buying. Like, for instance, I'm not really maybe a great fan of Sherlock Holmes' personality, just because I don't really find him a very compelling character. I just can't really connect with him. I know that he's very famous actually for his personality, but I personally find him a little bit detached from the humanity, and I know that this fact makes him different and famous, but at the same time I'm not sure that really works for me. At the same time, depiction of police forces in the book, well, I'm not really on board with this either. But anyway, I started second book of this blog, and this is The Sign of Four. So in this book, we continue our journey with Dr. Watson and Sherlock Holmes. And actually, there is a bit of a time jump, because I think in this story, it's about a few years since they started living together. And in this story, we see the mentioning of Sherlock Holmes' addiction to narcotics. And we see the discussion between Dr. Watson and Sherlock Holmes in the first, I think, chapter of this book, when Dr. Watson is raising his concerns about Sherlock Holmes' addiction. But Sherlock Holmes tried to justify that it stimulates his brain, because he can't really tolerate this moments of idleness when there is no mental stimulation and there are no interesting cases in his life, and he's just trying to create this artificial stimulation for himself, and he's using cocaine for this particular reason. But shortly after this discussion, we see a young woman arriving to Sherlock Holmes' house and presenting him a new case. Her father disappeared about 10 years ago, and no one actually knows what happened to him. But about 4 years after his disappearance, she started receiving very valuable and rare pearls. And at the same time, just one day before visiting Sherlock Holmes, she receives a very mysterious letter, and she decided to ask for help. And we see Sherlock Holmes jumping on this opportunity, and they're going to investigate this case. And again, it looks like the story follows the same type of style or pattern. And we see that the detective employed by the official police arrives to the scene, and obviously he is just a blabbery buffoon. He is absolutely incompetent. And we see that Sherlock Holmes just constructs this case in his head, and we see that the official investigation just happens in this black box of his mind, and we don't really have much of an insight in the deduction process. It looks like the trajectory of the stories is pretty much the same, and I'm wondering if, like in book 1, we'll have a deeper insight in the story, like for instance in the part 2 of the first book. We will see about it, but at the same time, don't think that I actually criticize the story, even though there are some small criticism on my part, but in general, I really enjoy the story. And we're planning to go on a tour tomorrow, so I think I'll be busy throughout the day tomorrow, but I'll try to finish this book as soon as possible, and I will let you know my final thoughts on it.
And here we're visiting Valparaiso, also known as a Jewel of the Pacific. Valparaiso is only 75 miles northwest of Santiago, and its population is around 1.8 million inhabitants, making it one of the most populated cities in Chile. For comparison, around 17 million people live in Santiago. Valparaiso is located on central Chilean west coast and is one of the country's most important ports. Before the Panama Canal was built in 1914, Valparaiso was a major port of call for commercial freights. Nowadays, it mainly caters for ships that are too large to pass through the canal. Valparaiso is a vibrant city, known for its hilly terrain, colorful street art, and historical significance. Valparaiso was built on at least 42 hills. According to some sources, even though it's debated, the actual number of it's still debated. And with such hilly terrain, expect lots of walking up and down. We definitely felt it. However, if you don't want to spend your time hiking, you can take advantage of funiculars, which we actually did. Around 30 of them were built between 1883 and 1916, and lots of them are still in use today. Valparaiso is considered one of the South America's graffiti capitals, and many streets look absolutely amazing with all this street art you can find around there. There is a real mix of styles, and you'll find some murals even if you're not looking for them. So have your cameras ready, and I was literally running around trying to take photos and videos of everything you could find. The historic waters of Valparaiso was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2003, recognizing its unique architectural and cultural value. And here, as you can see, we were actually visiting some vineyards, and they had some local llamas, and I was so excited. So I was as well running around and trying to take photos and videos of them.
I think it's time to finish this reading log. I'm really sorry for the quality of the video, but it's a bit dark here. We're taking a flight back to Madrid, so I really hope the quality of video won't be too bad so you can actually see me, because I see it's a bit blurry on my end. But anyway, I finished the Sign of Four just now, actually, on the way back. I know it's probably a slow progress, but we had so many tours and we were pretty busy just trying to see everything. It was absolutely amazing adventure, and I was very excited. So I tried reading, but I didn't really manage to read too much. But I really liked everything I read, especially Sherlock Holmes. And yes, I would like to wrap up this reading vlog so I can give you my final thoughts on these two books by Conan Doyle that I managed to finish. I think I actually enjoyed The Sign of Four more than the first book. I think it does follow the same sort of structure. So in each of the stories, at least I can't really probably speak for the rest of the series, but it looks like these two books that I managed to read. We have one or two chapters in the beginning of the book discussion of methods employed by Sherlock Holmes and just general chit chat and maybe to know our characters more. After that, we have a person presenting a new case to Sherlock Holmes, after which point Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson go and they see the scene of a crime they investigated. Sherlock Holmes pretty much solves the mystery of the murder on the spot, even though he doesn't really reveal anything to us. That's the thing about the stories, because everything is just happening in his head. It's like a black box. We don't really get much of an insight, unfortunately, but it's just a different way of doing it. I think I personally have a preference for another type of murder mysteries when we actually have a chance to try to investigate it and guess it with the main character. But in this case, we don't really have a chance. We can't really solve anything. It all actually happens in the genius head of Sherlock Holmes. But anyway, it's still very, very exciting. And I really enjoyed it, the way he thinks. I think my main sort of probably complaint, I don't know, or maybe wish, even though you can't really say it's a wish because nothing can be changed. But I don't really like the way the police forces are portrayed in these books, because official detectives employed by the police forces are presented as just blabbering fools. I don't know. It just doesn't ring true to me. Obviously, Sherlock Holmes absolutely shines. Next to them, he's just this infallible knight in shining armor, even though he lacks a bit of humanity, I would say, a touch of humanity. But at the same time, I think it's maybe an appealing quality to him just because he's such a different character. But I wish that the rest of the characters weren't just portrayed as fools, just stumbling around and not knowing what to do. At the same time, it just gives this very intellectual and genius-like picture of Sherlock Holmes. But at the same time, it paints him a little bit unbelievable, in my opinion. But it's just my opinion. I know it's very subjective, and I know lots of people love Sherlock Holmes. And to be fair, I started warming up to him in the second book. I found the second book more to my liking, even though I really actually enjoyed the first book, but I think I enjoyed it more in the second book. But the biggest difference, I would say, in the second book from the first one, we don't really have this clearly split parts of the book, because in the first book we have part one, part two. In this book it's just all in one part, but essentially it's the same thing, because in the end of the book we still have this sort of confession from the criminal telling us what actually happened, which actually serves as a part two anyway. So we do have this detailed explanation of the case and the history behind it. So that's probably the biggest, let's say, technical difference between these two books. And another fun fact, in the second book, The Sign of the Fall, Dr. Watson meets his wife. So if you heard anything about Sherlock Holmes but you haven't read it yet, like, for instance, me, because it's the first time I'm actually reading these books, you probably know that at some point Dr. Watson gets married. So here we are. He meets his wife in this book. So if you're curious, please read. It's quite interesting. Another thing, why people fall in love so quickly? Literally, probably on the second meeting with this lady, he's just so in love with her. I don't know. I'm not really, let's say, I don't really have a knowledge of customs in that time. I'm not sure how it was actually happening, courting and all the sort of business. I don't know, just so unbelievable to me. I don't know, but do let me know if you have more sort of insider knowledge about customs of that time. I'm actually curious because for me, it looked so fast, so rushed, and just a little bit again unbelievable. But still, he met his wife. Yay! Okay, and another thing that I would like to bring up in this video, even though I can't really fault the book because this book is a product of its time. But reading two of these books in the Sherlock Holmes mystery series, I noticed a pattern of villainizing foreigners, migrants, pretty much anyone who is outside of the British Empire. That's why in my previous update in this book, not on this book, on the first book, I mentioned, actually discussing the first book, I feel that sometimes, not sometimes, but I feel that some things don't really change. And some people still blame foreigners for all the misfortunes happening. But here I feel like there's such a air of mystery and just sort of villainous behavior coming from people outside of the empire. And I was really thinking about it, and I decided to do some shallow digging. I was trying to find anything about it, and apparently that's the case. And I personally didn't know about it. I didn't read many authors all the time, and now actually I'm very curious about it. Probably I should do some reading and actually just think about it. But apparently, many authors of late Victorian era had this view of the empire, of the world is decaying, collapsing, and they had this pretty sort of bleak view of things, and it was reflected in their works. And they had this sort of different views. The first view was that even people born and bred in the empire, when they get in touch with foreigners and with some other exotic and unknown habits of different cultures, they get corrupted. And therefore, some of the villains, even though they were born in, let's say, in Britain, they become villainous just because they were touched and they were polluted by these unknown forces outside of the empire. And another one is obviously that people that are not from Britain are just this unknown, mysterious forces, and they are villainous and they're savage. And there are lots of references to natives of different regions as being savage and ugly and dangerous and impossible to comprehend, as if they're people, not even people, but creatures from another planet. I found that very curious because it's such a fear of the unknown. It is very interesting. I definitely don't support it. I found it very, very curious. Obviously, I can't really fault, as I said already, this book for it, just because obviously it was a product of its time. It was influenced by current opinions at the time. So it can't really influence my opinion of it. I just try to observe it, I learn it, but it doesn't really diminish my opinion and enjoyment of the book just because I see it, I observe it, but understand that nothing we can do about it now. I am definitely much less forgiving of these things in our contemporary works, but it's like the sort of things as along with, for instance, sexism. I don't really like sort of things in contemporary works just because we should know better now. But with all the works, well, fine. It's not really fine, but it is there. It, people thought this way, nothing we can do about it. And I think it's very important to actually read and think about it and learn from it and to become better and more educated people now. So yes, these are my thoughts on these books. I really enjoy it, apart from trying to still warm up myself to Sherlock Holmes' personality, with abrasive personality, and maybe screen light up. Sorry, now I'm red. And my complaints about the police forces, but otherwise, I really actually enjoyed it. It was a very good experience, and I am definitely planning to continue this series. I'll let you know what I'll think about the rest of the books. So yes, and we are planning to go back to the UK tomorrow. So hopefully all of lights will be good. Sorry if it's a bit of shaking, maybe a bit of turbulence, and yes, it's darkness. Everyone is trying to see, and I'm a terrible, terrible person trying to talk here and probably distract people. I really enjoyed our trip to Chile. I would highly recommend it. Ooh, just my phone just fell down just because of quite a strong turbulence. I'm always freaking out. My phone fell down 3 times. We have quite a bit of turbulence at the moment. I'm always freaking out. Hopefully stop now. Sorry if it's shaking. It's not me shaking the phone. It's just everything is shaking here. But yes, I really enjoyed Chile. I'm not sure if we managed to go back, but I would like to probably finish seeing some other regions of Chile. It's a very, very beautiful country. We like Santiago, but we didn't really have much of an opportunity to actually explore it better. Um, Unfortunately, we didn't really know much about Santiago and which areas are better. And we book hotels in not the best, let's say, areas for going out. Um, Probably we will do a better research next time. But from what we saw from our walking tour and just like looking around, some of the areas are really, really beautiful. There is lots of beautiful street art, historical buildings. It's very, very nice place. Maybe the only thing I would say is a bit of a warning. It can be applied pretty much to any big city. When you walk in Santiago, in the city center, especially alone, just be careful. Don't flash your expensive phones, cameras. Don't put maybe jewelry, because some people can just come over and snatch it from you. We were warned by one of our tour guides, and actually it happened to one of the girls we met on one of the tours. She was just walking alone in the city, trying to check out museums, and just a guy approached her on the street during the day and snatched her necklace from her neck, and he was gone. She was pretty shaken, but it's not exactly just Santiago. Probably can happen in London. London is notorious for phone snatching. So if you are visiting London, maybe don't be over excited about filming everything on your phone in the city center, just showing it to everyone. It's being easily snatched. Then be careful, and nothing can happen to you in this case. Anyway, beautiful country. Absolutely loved it. I really hope you like these reading blogs, and please let me know if you watch these reading blogs. Please maybe give me feedback. What do you think you like? What do you dislike? And maybe give me some suggestions how you think I could improve these reading blogs. I'm still trying to figure it out because I do like filming these reading logs, but I understand that maybe they're not very popular. Maybe I'm just doing it in the wrong way, because I can't really probably film them at home just because there is not much to film. But when I'm traveling, I'm actually very excited to film this reading vlog just because I can share my thoughts on books, but at the same time, I can show you some places and countries. Maybe you haven't seen them, or maybe you're thinking of to visit them, and just show you a little bit of something different, not my just the day-to-day sitting in front of my pile of books. Anyway, thank you very much for your time that you decided to spend watching this video. I really appreciate it. And do give me feedback. I would highly appreciate it. And see you soon. Bye.